It's privatising and it's wrong.
Michael Woodhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the risk of sounding slightly sycophantic, I want to reflect on the National Party's annual conference, and in particular, never really, but I understand the risk, because I want to talk about Phil Heatley's speech to the party faithful at conference in Auckland on Saturday, because I think it was one of the best speeches I've heard one of our ministers do, and in particular about the opportunities for oil and gas exploration in this country. And he told the party faithful a story about a province in this country, a province that can successfully marry dairying, tourism and oil and gas exploration completely comfortably, and has done so for decades. And that province, that's right, Lucy Lawless will know exactly where that is, because that's the province of Taranaki and the city of New Plymouth, which I think stands out as the model for what can be done when environmental risks are managed and when there is a comfortable coalescence with all of those things: dairying, tourism and oil and gas. And the numbers around Taranaki are quite compelling. Where New Zealand's GDP per capita is at around $46,000, Taranaki's GDP per capita is at around $88,000, and it's a significant contributor, oil and gas, to the increase over the national average. Now, Mr. Speaker, there is another province in this country, in this great country of ours, and it has dairying, and it has great tourism, and it may, just may, subject to further exploration, have some fantastic oil and gas fields not far off its shores. And that is the province of Otago. Close, Mr. Brownlee, but not quite. In fact, though, it is at the south end of the Canterbury Basin, I think they'd call it. And I'm particularly concerned to ensure that city leaders in Dunedin are unequivocal about their support that as long as environmental risks can be managed, that resource should be exploited. So I was a little concerned to read in this morning's Otago Daily Times that the Dunedin City Council, fracturing into two camps, has narrowly decided to join calls for a moratorium on fracking. Never mind that there is no fracking going on in Otago. Never mind that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment hasn't yet completed her inquiry into the risks of fracking, and certainly never mind that there was no community consultation before the Council passed this motion. And it's important because I think, as a city leader, it's time to stand up and say this: as long as the environmental risks can be managed, Dunedin must promote, must lead and welcome the Anadakos and the Shell Todds who have the exploration licences, and head out off the shore at Karatani and down at Nugget Point and explore those fields that Mr. Heatley pointed out. Yes, Nugget Point, yes, Marine Reserve, that's right. Comfortably coalescing, I'm quite sure, with the environment down there and the tourism opportunities and the dairying opportunities in South Otago. The three can coalesce, because the city actually contributed to a multi-party economic development strategy which said, and I quote, "Dunedin will be one of the world's great small cities, will be renowned as a confident, competitive knowledge centre." And then it goes on to talk about things like business vitality, a compelling destination, magnet for skills and talent, and so on. Now, when I was a child, and I'll come to that, Dr. Clark, when I was a child, 25% of the companies listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange had their head offices in Dunedin. And in the late 70s and early 80s, there was a flight north and across the Tasman. And were it not for the fact that 25%, that's right, go and have a look at the numbers, the Donaghy's, the Fisher and Paykel's, the Shacklocks, the McLeods, all of those, all had their head offices in Dunedin. And I can't stand by and look the people of Dunedin in the eye and say it is sad what's happened to Hillside, that they cannot compete with larger and more technologically adept companies internationally, and then turn around and say we are equivocal about oil and gas exploration. I cannot do it. So I stand up today and I say, as a city leader, that I support those companies coming in. They have expertise in mining, and deep water mining in particular, and I think that this would be great for the city, and I call on other leaders to do the same, and in particular the Dunedin City Council.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very glad that the National Party are talking